0.2 talks about adding and subtracting fractions. So the first problems we're going to do, we're going to have a common denominator, meaning the number on the bottom is already going to be the same. So it says to add or subtract fractions with a common denominator. Let's see. It says add or subtract the numerators, keep the same or the common denominator, and simplify our answer if we can. So let's take a look at the first problem. I already know that the bottom number is going to be 7. That 7 is going to stay the same because they both have a 7. We're just going to add the numbers on top. So 5 plus 1 is 6. We can't reduce that fraction, so we won't. All right, let's try the next one. The bottom number is 3. Okay. 2 plus 1 is also 3. Now 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we can simplify the second problem. Okay. Let's go to the third one. The bottom number here is going to be 8. Now I'm going to add all my numbers on top. So 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 2 more is 6. Now I can reduce that fraction. We can divide both those numbers by 2. So 2 goes into 6 3 times, and 2 goes into 8 4 times. And finally, the last one here, my bottom number is 5. 3 plus 4 is just 7. Now, this is an improper fraction, right? It's okay for us to have an improper fraction. They didn't tell me that I needed to change it to a mixed number, so I won't do that. Okay. The next problem's here. We're going to subtract fractions. We're doing the same exact thing we did before. So my bottom number is 11. 9 minus 2, 7. I cannot reduce that fraction, so I won't. The next one here, my common denominator is 6. 5 minus 1 is 4. I can reduce this fraction. I can divide them both by 2. So 2 goes into 4 twice, and 2 goes into 6 3 times. And there we are. We are reduced. Okay. So now, it says procedure to find the LCD using prime factors. Okay. So we're going to talk about how do we find the common denominator using the prime factor method. Okay. So the first problem I'm going to show you, I'm actually not going to use the prime factor method. I'm going to use a method I actually think is a little bit easier. And I mentioned this before in section 0.1 about using our multiplication table. Since we're looking for the common denominator, the two numbers that I'm really looking at here are the numbers 6 and 15. Okay. So what I want to do, let me see if I can get it here. I'm going to pull up my chart, and I'm going to look at the numbers 6 and 15. So, let's see. 6 and 15, let me see if I can find them. 1 second. Okay, so 6 and 15, here is my number 6, here's my number 15. I'm going to start going down or to the right. I'm going to start going to the right. I want to find the first number that matches up. The first number that I see both in 6 and in 15 is the number 30. So that's going to be my least common denominator. I'm just looking for that first number that they both have in common. Well, the first number that they both had in common was 30. Okay, now the second problem, this problem here, I am going to show you how to do it using the least common or the prime factor method to do this. If the numbers are small enough, like 6 and 15, use the chart. It's going to be that much easier, okay? When my numbers get a little bit larger, like these, 27 and 18, and if you look at our chart, we don't have 27, we don't have 18 there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break down my number 27, okay? So what numbers do I know multiply to 27? Well, 3 and 9. I'm going to circle the number 3 because I cannot break it down. I can break down the number 9, so I'm going to continue to break it down. That's 3 and 3, but those 3's cannot be broken down. I'm now going to write my number 27 as 3 times 3 times 3. We're going to do the same thing with the number 18. So right here I'm going to write down my number 18. I know that's 2 times 9. Well, I'm going to circle 2 because I can't break that down. I can break down 9 into 3 and 3, but I'll circle those numbers as well. So 18 is 2 times 3 times 3. Now, what I want to do is I want to look at these numbers that have been broken down, And when I'm going to find my common denominator, every distinct number that I see I'm going to need. So I know I'm going to need the number 2, and I know I'm going to need the number 3. So when I look at, say, this box, for instance, it has 1, 2. This one doesn't have any, so I need the number 2. I need it one time because in any one of those boxes, the number 2 occurred at most once. Now, when I look at the number 3, this number here has, or that box there has 2 3s. This one has 3. I want to pick the one that has the most. So because the most number of 3s I had in any one box was 3, I need 3 of them. And all we're going to do now is multiply. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 6 times 9 gives me 54. Okay. If my chart was big enough and it had an 18 in there and it had a 27, so if I were to come back to my chart, just like we did a little while ago, and if my chart had an 18 and it had a 27, then the first number that I would find as I would go to the left to the right, or if I were to come down, would be 54, okay? So, let's see if we can do the same thing for the next one here. We're going to go ahead and break this number down completely. So we have a couple of numbers. We have 12, we have 15, and we have 30. So I know 12 is, say, 2 and 6. 6 is 2 and 3. I cannot break those numbers down, so I'm going to write 2 times 2 times 3. I'm going to put that in the box. 15 is 3 times 5. I can't break down either of those either, so I'm going to put those in the box. 30 is, say, 3 times 10. 10 is 2 times 5. And I will put those in the box. I'm going to put them in order. So I'm going to put 2, then 3, then 5. Okay. Now, I'm going to look at all 3 boxes now. Okay. So I'm going to look at this box, and this box. I know I have the number 2. This box here has the most 2's. So I'm going to write 2 of them. Okay. Now, each one of these boxes has a 3. But in each box, the number 3 only happens one time. So I only need 1 3. This one doesn't have any 5s, but each of these have 1 5. So again, in any one of those boxes, the most number of 5s I had was 1. So now we can go ahead and multiply. So I know 2 times 2 is 4. I know 3 times 5 is 15. So 4 times 15 is 60. And that's going to be my common denominator. Okay. So again, my first recommendation is if I can use my chart when my numbers are small enough, I'll do that. And I want to show you, even in this problem here, you know, I had 12, 15, and 30. If I were to, say, come back to my chart, and I were to look at, say, the numbers, at least for now, 12 and 15, because those are the numbers that I have. Here's 12 and here's 15. And if you notice, the first number that they both have in common appears to be 60, right? And I know that if my chart kept going down and here I had a 30, well, I know this one here would be 30, but the next one here would be 60, and I can sort of see that as well, okay? So sometimes, even if you don't have all the numbers on your chart, you can still sort of figure that out, but I think that's a good way to approach it, okay? Okay. So the next problems here say, what can we do, or how do we add or subtract fractions when we don't have a common denominator? Well, the first thing is we got to find it, okay? The second thing is we're going to change each fraction to an equivalent fraction with the LCD for a denominator. I'll show you how we do that. Add or subtract, and then simplify if we can. All right, so if I read the first problem here, it says Bob picked 2/3 of a bushel of apples on Monday and 1/4 of a bushel of apples on Tuesday. How much did he pick in total? Well, I already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to add these two numbers together. So I'm going to write 2/3 plus 1/4. So the first thing I need to do here is I need to find a common denominator, okay, between my numbers 3 and 4. So again, if I come back to my chart and I pull my chart up, I'm looking at my numbers 3 and 4. Well, the first number that they both have in common is the number 12. So that's going to be my new denominator. Okay? So I'm going to put a 12 right here and a 12 right here. And then I'm going to do what we did a little while ago. I'm going to look at this number 3 and look at the 12. What did I multiply 3 by to get 12? Well, I multiplied it by 4. So I got to do the top one by 4. That gives me an 8. We multiplied this 4 by 3. So I got to do that one by 3. Okay. Now that I have a common denominator, I can just add my numbers on top. 8 plus 3 is 11. Okay. Let's do the same thing here. So it says find the LCD and then add. Alright, so what I really want to do here is I want to find a common denominator between 5, 20, and 2. So again, I want to pull up my table because it's going to be helpful. So if I look at just 5 and 2, here's my number 2, here's my number 5. 10 appears to be the first number that they have in common. But if you notice, the other number we have is 20. Well, look, there's a 20, there's a 20. Again, if I had a chart here, I know the first number here would be 20, and this one, and this one would be the first number that they all have in common. So 20 is going to be my common denominator, okay? So right here, I'm going to write 20, 20, 20. Okay? So let's take a look. Let's come back. We had a 5. What do we multiply 5 by to get 20? We multiplied it by 4. So 4 times 3 is 12. What did I multiply 20 by to get 20? I didn't change it. So I'm not going to change that number either. And we multiplied 2 by 10. So 1 times 10 is 10. All right, I'll give you a hint in this problem. My number on the bottom is going to be 20. All we're going to do now is add our numbers on top. So 12 plus 7, 19. 19 plus another 10 is a 29. Okay. All right. So here's my next one. 7 over 18, 5 over 12. I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to look at my chart because I think I can figure out. Here we go. 12 is 12, 24, 36. So again, if I'm thinking about my chart here, here's 18. The first one would be 18. The next one would be 36. And so 36 is going to be my common denominator. Okay. Again, if you want to break them down completely, you can do that. But I really think using your chart as often as you can is going to be really beneficial. 36, 36. So we multiplied 18 by 2. So we're going to take 7 times 2. That's 14. We multiplied 12 by 3. So we're going to multiply 5 by 3. That'll give me 15. Okay. So this is now 36. 14 and 15 is 29. And at that point, again, I'm done. All right. Let's take a look at the last two problems we have here. All right, so this one here, 48 and 36, those numbers are pretty big. I want to go ahead and see if I can break those numbers down. 48, well, I know that's 4 and 12. I can break up that 4 and 2 and 2. Break up that 12 into 2 and 6. And that 6 into 2 and 3. So I'm going to circle all the ones that I cannot break down. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 into 3. Okay. Let's do the same thing for the number 36. Oh, I don't know, that's say 3 and 12. That's 2 and 6. That's 2 and 3. So we have, oops, that 6 should not have the circle around it because we broke it down. So we have 2 2s and 2 3s, okay? So my LCD, first thing we're going to do here, we're going to find our common denominator. We'll look at this box, look at that box. Well, that's the most 2's I got, so I need 4 of them. And this one has more 3's than that one, so I need 2 of them. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. 3 times 3 is 9, And if I take my calculator here, I'm going to multiply 16 times 9. That gives me 144. That's my common denominator. Alrighty. Okay, so let's write two new fractions. 144. 144. Alrighty. So if I want to figure out, what I got to multiply 48 by to get 144, I can go back and use my calculator. Just take 144 divided by 48, and we multiplied it by 3. Okay. So let's multiply this guy here by 3. That one by 3, that's a 75. Okay, you can do the same thing again. Calculator, we're going to go 144 divided by 36, multiplied it by 4. Okay. So we'll multiply this guy here by 4, that guy there by 4, that's 20. So now 75 minus 20 should give me a total of 55 over 144, and we're done. Okay. Alrighty. Let's take a look at this last problem. So again, 5, 6, and 10. I'm going to look at those three numbers, 5, 6, and 10. Okay. So let me come back to my table. Because it got kind of messy, I want to clean it up. Okay, there we go. Alright, so we're looking at 5, 6, and 10. There we go. 30 is our least common denominator. Let's come back to our problem. Okay, and we're going to put 30, 30, 30. This one here had a plus, that one there had a minus. Alright, so we're multiplying this guy by 6, so we're multiplying that guy by 6. We're multiplying this one here by 5, so that one goes by 5. Multiplying this one here by 3, so that one multiplies by 3. Okay, and again, 30 is my bottom number. 6 plus 5 is 11. 11 minus 9 is 2. We can reduce this fraction. We can divide them both by 2. And that gives us 1 over 15. And that's section 0.2.